everyone, I'm Erica Lee. I'm with Indiana University and I'm representing the Online Learning Collective today. And this is our second video in how to get on to take your course and make it asynchronous, take your course and get it online quickly. I'm with Jen Kramer. She's from the Harvard Extension School. She's been teaching online for quite a long time and she knows what she's doing. So Jen, tell us what is this supposed to look like? I mean, so I've got Canvas in my university and I have my course, but I'm used to standing in front of people and talking to them. And I put stuff up on Canvas, but how do I only work through Canvas? How do I do this?
Yeah. So the very first thing you have to do is let go your need for control.
Does it come across strongly?
Yes. Some of you more than others. Yes. So, yeah. We're giving up control in a lot of areas in our lives. It's a very healthy thing to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through how you can put your information out there in Canvas. I'm not going to go through the technical side of it, but I want to give you some models for teaching that maybe will work for your particular systems. Now, I teach at the Harvard Extension School. My students are basically graduate students who are working on master's degrees in digital media. And I'm going to show you 3 of my classes because actually I'm using 3 different setups based on my goals for these courses. So that remains one of my biggest pieces of advice is to go back and revisit your goals for the course. What do you need these students to remember 2 to 3 years from now? What do you need these students to know as prerequisites going into their next, whatever it is, whenever we go back to school and they enroll in the next thing in the series of courses that they're taking? What are the prerequisites your course is supposed to satisfy for that? So those are the most important things to address in your course right now. Having said that, all of my courses have been wholly online. In fact, I've taught more wholly online than I have in person. So let me show you what I'm doing this term. This particular class that I have up now is called Designing Stories for the Web. It is a journalism and web design class. My co-instructor, Martha Nichols, is in the journalism department, and she is teaching students writing. I'm on the tech side of things. I'm having students build websites in WordPress and post their writing on those sites. So the journalism students get technology experience, the technology students get writing experience. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
So the way that we've set these classes up, I'm just going ahead and show you here week number 2. This is the lecture about hooks. How do we hook people into a story and so forth. And I just wanted to show you, first of all, I should mention, the page that you're looking at right here is the module page. And this has all of everything organized as we present our information on a week-by-week basis. Each week corresponds to one module. So as you'll see here, we have a module for before the course begins, and then we have modules for each week thereafter. Half of these are published. When I get down here towards the bottom, here we are in week 9. These are unpublished at this point in time. We have taught the class before. This is the material that will be coming up next. So students can't see that, but we can. You can set the module view as the homepage for the course pretty easily. Just simply go on over here to choose homepage over here on the right-hand side, and I've chosen the course modules. Typically, this is just a page inside of Canvas. Often it has information on it like when the class is meeting in person, in what classroom, course objectives, that kind of thing. Your students know all of that information. Rather than making them go through that and an extra click every time and an extra page load every time to get into the meat of the course, just set it to the course modules. That way they're dumped into everything the same way. Within this particular module, you want to set things up exactly the same way every time for all of the remaining modules in your course. Don't play around with different formats and different structures and so forth, because the students will get confused. And what I recommend you do is make use of headings. These are just headings here that tell us here's the videos that you need to watch, here's the reading that you need to do, and here's a due date with an assignment. They're going to be working on a revision of one of their stories, and some discussions down here at the bottom. That way a student can scan through this and say, okay, I got videos, I got reading, I've got an assignment. Here's some discussion boards down here on the bottom. So now the way we, go ahead.
So these modules are for a week, right?
Correct. This is 1 week's worth of material in a graduate level course. So your mileage may vary for undergrads. but you can still take the same kind of structure and the same kind of idea.
Right. But so normally I'm teaching like 2 courses, 2 in-class lectures, and a lab. And so you're saying that I could technically put all of that together into here's what you have to do this week,
I
right?
would actually strongly recommend, if
Okay.
you are doing 2 or 3 lectures a week, that you combine it into a single week's module. Why? Because, once again, give up control. You're not in control anymore. And second
Maybe
of
that's been true the whole time. I don't know.
and second of all, when you give the students everything at the start of the week, it's on them, and you need to explain this to them. It's on them to figure out exactly how to distribute that work over the course of the week. I have an idea for how you can help them through that process, but it's still quite possible that if it's all due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m., that they will get started on Sunday at noon after they wake up to try to do an entire week's worth of material in that 12-hour span.
Yeah.
But you've given them the entire week, so craziness can happen, and internet failures can happen, and weird things with computers, and whatever other excuses they're going to throw at you. They have the entire week to figure out how to budget their time to get this thing done in a timely manner. Okay, so let me show you one of my favorite parts of this, which is the introduction and checklist. One of the biggest challenges with teaching online is that students have trouble knowing what they should be doing. So what you really need to have is a layout, a way of describing what's going on this week, what do you need to accomplish, and when are all the due dates.
Okay.
And the reason that is so important is you have links to all these things over here in your left-hand navigation. So you can't have students go in and dig through modules or assignments or quizzes or discussions or whatever, dig through all of that material and try to figure out what's going on. They will give up quickly. Again, remember, their attention is not 100% on your course. So laying it out for them as clearly as possible is a wonderful thing. Martha and I start off with an intro chat that just sort of sets the grounding for the week, gives students a little bit of a connection with us personally, since again, we have no synchronous portion of our course. So this is what we do here. You can do this. You can take this idea and make a little intro video every week, a minute or two, let people know what's going on, show them your cat, whatever it is, or not.
I realize I have a official OLC bingo chart that includes Saw Professor's cat, so this could help out.
There you go. There you go. So Martha is a writing instructor, and so she likes to have students write as much as possible in his graduate school. So she always gives them a warm-up exercise, which gets their writing juices going and gives them a bit of text to go on ahead and write, and they can optionally share it later in a discussion. That's the kind of thing that you could turn into a participation type of grade or an attendance type of grade where you're grading pass fail. If you're trying to figure out how do I substitute that 20% of my grade for attendance or whatever it is, these little exercises that are just complete, incomplete are a good way to do it.
Okay.
Pro tip, don't overwhelm your students with a whole bunch of these. They will lose track of what exactly they're supposed to be doing. But if you have 1 or 2 of these that are very targeted and very focused and on point to what you want them to be getting out of the course, these are reasonable things to do. Okay, and then underneath of this, we actually have a checklist that actually reflects the module structure that tells you exactly what you need to do. The videos, the technology, the reading, the discussion, and the writing is all linked up from here. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is one methodology that I'm using for courses, and I'm going to show you a second one. Again, graduate students, let me make that a little bit bigger. Graduate students, once again. So here in this course, this is creating, what did I call this one? Creating websites with content management systems. Basically, I want graduate students to build a whole lot of websites of a whole bunch of different types. They're going to build 6 websites in a term, all of them in WordPress. And so for this course, what I have happening here is the following. I actually give them 2 modules, and I give them a 2-week period to get all this material done. So at the beginning of the 2-week period, I release my educational materials and the assignment, and they are self-paced through those 2 weeks. So there's nothing for them to do except turn in a website at the end. Not a structure I'd necessarily recommend for undergraduates, but for graduate students, this is pretty effective, and it's filling the goal that I want them to have, which is I want them to build a lot of websites so they have a lot of experience when they get to our capstone and they're ready to build a really big website for their capstone project for their master's degree.
Right.
Then they will have experience building smaller websites.
Well, you know what I like about what you're saying about this structure is that I have assignments that take multiple weeks for them to produce, right? My assignments aren't weekly necessarily. A lot of them cover, 3-4 weeks. I usually kind of break things up into chunks in that way in the course. So what you're saying here is that I could have my modules for each week, but I could also have a separate module for the assignment that maybe spans a little more time and have everything put in there. But how do they know, how do they know what they're doing in that? So like, there's not going to be a goals and checklists like you have down in your weekly module.
Yeah, well, actually, in this particular situation, I have a better example of an assignment that spans over several weeks. Here, this is really just an assignment that goes with a unit. And here, so this is the assignment that they have. They have a turn-in sheet and they have questions where they can ask questions about this particular assignment. They always have, as clear as I try to be in communicating the assignment, inevitably there's some sort of exception. So students are able to post questions here, which I answer. Pro tip again, don't try to deal with everybody individually by email, especially as your classes get bigger. You will be overwhelmed. You will have the same questions happening over and over and over and over again. If you make your students post their questions in the discussion forum and then have them refer to the discussion forum for answers before asking a new question, you will reduce your workload. And so
I like that you've tied those to each module or assignment as opposed to one general discussion group. That seems like a lot of sense.
Yeah, rather than having one giant whole bunch of questions on all kinds of things, life, universe, and everything, and trying to have people wade through that, it's a disaster. So here, these are specifically questions to the assignment, as opposed to here in my module here, where we're taking WordPress and plugging in a learning management system to it and configuring that. This has a separate discussion right here where people can ask questions about the material that I've covered in this particular unit. Okay, so, but let me just mention here, there's my goals and checklist. I actually have this all the time, no matter what, and I try to list it as the first thing. The exception was this particular module that I'm showing you here, where some of them needed to brush up on their HTML and CSS before we got into that topic. And so I needed to remind them in bold letters. But the thing I really wanted to point out about this particular course is right here, the suggested schedule for completing Unit 3. And because I'm giving them 2 weeks to work on this, as I say here, the only hard deadline is March 9th for this assignment. Oops, I should say assignment 3. Okay. And but if you keep to these as internal milestones for your project, you should come out ahead. Notice I actually have them finishing it up by March 7th, which gives them 2 days extra in case bad things happen. I'm trying to model good project management for them. Finish early. You have an extra 2 days in case something screwy happens that you can finish up.
Literally spelling out, here's how your week should look, or in this case, 2 weeks.
Correct. And this is also a way that they can measure whether they are on track or if they are behind. So, again, graduate students are really no different. They will still try, some of them will still try to do the entire unit in the weekend before everything is due. Because it's 2 weeks, so they do Saturday and Sunday. But they're not going to have as good a product as if they work on it steadily a little at a time over the 2-week period. So you could do a similar kind of thing if you're concerned about your undergrads and not having those 2 or 3 weekly classes that they're coming to. You could list internal dates like this. I still recommend having everything due at the end of the week so that they can juggle as they need to in uncertain times. But you could spell out exactly what you think they should be doing by certain dates, just so they can tell if they're on track or not.
So I think this is a fairly natural time for us to call a wrap on this video. And I think in our next video, what we'll talk about is what kinds of things are in her modules and how do you handle this same kind of transparency with the assignments that you want to assign.